I then listen to you. Say if you're speaking to me about something, about your troubles, and if I listen to you from a place of compassion, which is an energy that is saying that I wish for you to be free from your suffering, if that energy goes into my listening, which is the action, then my listening in that moment becomes righteous. And then the Guru transmits that into you. You're getting a boost of energy that you wouldn't have been able to create and form yourself. And the Guru's instilling that into you. It's an initiation because you've been initiated into the Guru Mantra. You're getting this whole surge of energy put into you to start your journey. And how can you be powerful but a servant? And what is then true humility? True humility is feeling humbled that you've been able to go underneath and to provide a platform and hands to lift somebody back closer to their light.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Illuminating Dialogues number 24, where I have the pleasure of sitting down and talking to Baljit Singh today. How are you, Baljit?
Very well, thank you.
Awesome. It's such a pleasure to have you on, and I'm looking forward to discussing and sharing about the journey of compassion, the work you're doing, and hopefully some deeper wisdom that I think viewers could connect with and use in their daily life. So before we go into that dialogue, this podcast is called Illuminating Dialogues. So it's a place where we can journey, maybe to a place we haven't gone before, and illuminate ourselves and also the listeners as well, hopefully, who listen to this today. So my first question to you is, what lights you up?
It's when I feel that connection, and that can come through various different ways, often during kirtan and when it's unexpected as well. So it could be that I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. I've had to get everything ready for a program. I've been running around, and then I'm feeling disorientated, and I've sat down, and then there's a shabad being sung in a particular way. So somebody's chanting, and then all of a sudden, not expecting it, bang, something happens, something hits me, and there's a connection where there's just tears, and that's what lights me up in that moment. It's just that moment's just everything for me.
Amazing. And we talked before on the podcast as well how no matter what emotional state we're in, there's so many different wisdom and so many different emotions that we can connect to on that level from the shabads and the kirtan. So I was wondering if you could share a bit about what was your journey in terms of connecting deeper with this wisdom, and maybe share with the viewers how maybe going from, I think like myself in the Punjabi or immigrant community and also British community, how did you start to connect deeper to that wisdom?
The first thing that comes to mind is because whilst growing up, I wasn't really exposed to the Sikhi gurbani wisdom. And I always had my gaze on my head because that's just traditionally what was done in our families. But I had no deeper connection to the identity and form, or I had no understanding of the Guru's wisdom. But I always had a very curious mind, and it was naturally there, present. So even as young as 14, 15 years old, without being exposed to any form of spirituality, my mind was asking what today we call the big questions is what happens after death? What is time? If there is some form of place that we go to, if there's something called heaven, what is that? And then how, and my biggest question was, how long does it last? So I was trying to understand it's what is forever. And I didn't have the concept of something being timeless. So, and then there was trying to figure out what does God even mean then? And so there was all of that in the back of my head, just always kind of, in the background. And then it would be stronger as I'm about to go to bed. These type of questions would, and then I would be trying to figure out, do I believe in God or do I not believe in God? And not asking myself the deeper question to what does it mean to believe in or not believe in? And I was trying to figure out if there is an after death or not, a life after death or not. So I think it's important to recognize that there was something already there. My mind was already trying to seek these answers to these questions. So when I was exposed then to the Sikhi way of life at the age of 16, it wasn't by choice. It wasn't out of my own searching. It was out of certain family circumstances that we were taken and introduced to some Gursikhs and Gurmukhs. But again, my connection with it all was an emotional connection. So I was always a very emotional person. So I felt emotions very strongly. And even if we were just singing songs with my friends, I could emotionally connect to them. I was very expressive about my emotions. Well, there was a group of friends, and we all were, to be fair. We didn't hold back in expressing how we felt about each other. So, and because that call it I don't know if personality is the right word, but call it just myself being somebody that was connected to emotion. So as soon as I came then into Sikhi, I had that connection in the kirtan again. And it was an emotional connection. But at the same time, I also loved and connected to the stories of the Gurus. And I would listen very attentively, and I'd love then, trying to memorize those stories and then say them back to people. So I loved telling stories. I'm very passionate, very passionate.
Amazing.
So
yeah, and I think as we tune into the contemplation sessions on a Sunday, it's the way the stories are, or the way certain lines are written, that really draws us. And there's so many levels of depth that we can reach. And I just think it's such a beautiful mode of exploration as well, through the sound, through the story. I'm just wondering, why is it a journey of compassion? So why is it that compassion is kind of emphasized in this journey, if you'd like to share?
So I'll answer that in two different perspectives. One from a personal perspective, and then one from Guru Nanak's wisdom.
Okay.
Guru Nanak was always very clear that there is no way of life, what we refer to as dharma. Dharma can be translated to the actual way of living. And Guru Nanak says, well, does it look like this, or this? And you can't really label it to say, well, dharma is this action or dharma is this action. So then how do you know what dharma is? And Guru Nanak said that dal dharam, daya ka poot. He said, well, it's whatever is born from compassion, that is then the child, which is called dharam. So, and then that always stuck out for me. And I always thought that, well, we often label very specific actions to be this is righteous, this is dharam. But Guru Nanak is saying something different. He's saying, well, it's based on where it's born out of, and whatever follows from that. If it follows from compassion, then it's dharam. Otherwise, it's not. So then, for me, I needed to understand then what is compassion, and compassion. So if we was to look at it within layers of different emotions, and these emotions, we could say that I'd like to call them divine emotions, because emotions are something that we experience and express through this human vessel. But another way of looking at it is also that the entire creation is made up of emotions. And that's another way that Guru Nanak explained it as well, that this whole creation is just a song sung by these angels, and this song is just made up of different layers of emotions. If we were to go into what Guru Nanak speaks about the Sodar, so when he says Sodar keha, so kar keha, jet peh sarb samale, vaje naad anek asankha, kete vavan kete tere राग परिसियो कहिन केते तेरे गावन हारे गाव है तुन्हो पौन पानी बैसंतर गाव है raja dharma dware. Like it's this entire creation is just a song, and this song is just made up of different layers of emotions. So I wanted to so when I looked at, okay, so what's love then? Love is a natural emotion that oozes this energy to wish well for others. And then compassion is when you wish others to be free from suffering. So if I then listen to you, say if you're speaking to me about something, about your troubles, and if I listen to you from a place of compassion, which is an energy that is saying that I wish for you to be free from your suffering. If that energy goes into my listening, which is the action, then my listening in that moment becomes dharam, becomes righteous. That then becomes a righteous act. And that's why you can't just label an action to say, well, listening is dharam. No, because you could be listening with an intention of ill wish or wanting to bring somebody down, so that you wouldn't refer to that as dharam. But if I'm wishing well for you and for you to be free from your suffering, then my listening is dharam.
Yeah, there's so much nuance here that I think a lot, especially myself, so often we listen a lot, but it's how we're listening. And that's quite beautiful, because then dharam, that righteousness comes out of it. And often we try to label our actions as righteous, but connecting to that deeper place. So then if we just start with the heart, and I think we talked about this before, that fourth center, anhata, why is the emphasis placed on the heart a lot, the mind and the heart? And maybe if you could explain also the importance of Shabad Guru and this interplay of trying to cultivate this compassion.
So there's many references within Gurbani where they talk about the hirda. For example, where the Guru will say things like Nit hirde sada samal, always enshrine remembrance of that one within your hirda, within your center, within your heart. So again, that center, that central chakra is again connected to our emotions. Guru Nanak says that Ven gun kite bhagat na hoye. He's saying there is no bhakti, there is no devotion without gun, without these qualities that we just spoke about. So if you're saying that I'm doing bhakti, somebody, again, what do people do? They refer to a specific action as bhakti. So somebody's reading Gurbani and they'll automatically say, oh, dekho bhakti karda, look, they are doing bhakti. The Guru Nanak saying, no, you cannot merely label a specific act, even if it's doing Path, reading Gurbani, singing the Guru's Bani. You cannot merely call that an act of bhakti, because bhakti is only happening when there are guna involved in it, when your hirda is there, when your heart is present, when there is daya there, where there is prem there, where there is love there, where there is compassion there. So but then another quality that comes within bhakti, within devotion, which isn't often spoke about, these are the common ones we all hear, love and compassion, is being carefree and letting go. Like truly to connect with that devotion. Your heart chakra isn't connected to your rational mind.
Okay.
So it's not going to be trying to figure it out, work it out. I'll give you an example this morning. Sometimes what I'll do is, even if I'm reading a shabad or something on my phone, but what I'll do is I'll just put my phone aside for that moment, and then I'll just stare up into the sky. And then this morning, like the way the clouds were formed, you could see it was just, and then the sun was coming through, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful picture. And for a moment, my rational mind tried to kick in, because I was reading something as well. So that mind was probably ticking away. So the rational mind said, oh, what are clouds? What do they do? And what's their job? And I just thought, okay, shut up, you know. And that's not how I want to connect right now. I don't want to be, I'm not trying to work out or think. So I switched that off, and I took a breath, and I centered myself, and I just went into a state of wow, of vismad, of the scene, of the just looking up. And that was just then, it's not connected then. You're not trying to understand it. You're not trying to work it out. You're not trying to look at the function of it. You're just in a state of awe of it. And that's bhakti, and that is then your hirda. And that is what allows you then to not just form a connect, but that's what allows you to know Vaheguru, to know that there's something beyond. The rational part of the mind is needed, and that is, we need that to just understand the functionality of things and how we need to use and utilize things to survive for this body, for everything else around us. But that doesn't necessarily provide us with that deeper connection of knowing, which when everything else just let goes, and you go into that flow.
Yeah, and I explained so beautifully. Often we've forgotten, I feel, how to surrender into the heart, because being an engineer, of course, always trying to work things out. And I was actually watching a documentary last night with my dad, and it's all about how that Earth moves around the sun is moving around the galaxy, and the galaxy is moving in the universe. And I thought, wow, this awe aspect, it's going into that and completely being in that flow. And so I'm wondering, I think you mentioned this carefree or this letting go aspect. And a lot of people may come to or may see religion from the outside, and they may feel a bit judged, or they feel a bit guilty sometimes of not doing certain practices or things like this. And it seems a bit of a contradiction to this va, or this awe, or surrender. So how can people maybe start to overcome these barriers that they might be seeing? I don't know if you've also seen this at all.
Can I get you into trouble and get you to give an example and be more specific what some of these practices might be?
Yeah, so I think I saw a comment once on Facebook, actually this past week, and I think people were feeling bad because they couldn't recite a certain passage, or they couldn't stick to the discipline of doing a certain amount of prayers, let's say, or maybe they felt judged because they wouldn't wear their the star, or they they maybe didn't carry a certain discipline about them. So I saw these certain comments, and I thought, oh, this is kind of at odds with these emotions are kind of at odds with this awe. So I'm wondering how people can start to overcome this what seems like a challenge.
A lot of this comes from being conditioned into a way of thinking by a lot of other people's expectations, and even the people that put the expectations on them are probably not living to that level and extent anyway. And a lot of where some of this pressure comes from as well is to be a certain way externally, to read this amount, to do this much. It can often come from a place and also from people that are struggling with connection themselves. So there's a lot of things to try and understand why we could be experiencing and feeling that. But what I will say is, if I was to speak openly, first question I would ask myself is, look, why does the Guru want me to do this? Why does the Guru want me to read these words? And ultimately, the Guru wants to take me there. The Guru wants me to be experiencing that place, so I can also, like Guru Nanak Dev Ji says that Nanak Bhagata Sadavigas, that the devotees of that one Sadavigas, they're in this constant state of bloom, vigas. And Nanak Bhagata Sadavigas, Sunaya Dukh Pap Ka Nas. And they're so intuitively listening to that divine Sunaya Dukh Pap Ka Nas, that their dukh, their suffering is being erased. Nas is being destroyed. The suffering from all these different forms of, negative actions, So the Guru wants us to connect and to experience a state of joy, a state of anand, bliss. But I would go, I'd ask that question even further. Why? Yeah.
Yeah.
And the why for me is that, for one, it's the human opportunity and capability. So why not?
Mm.
Why not experience that instead of uh, lower experiences which are based on survival? But from survival come then anger and all of these different emotions. I don't think there's any human on this earth that would at will choose to stay and remain in a state of anger over being in a state of joy or bliss. I don't think anybody at will would choose that. So, and that's the human potential, is to experience that higher way. And when you are like that, when you are in that state, then what point is it to others? If I'm in that state, I'm obviously going to be a better person for other people too.
Mm.
Yeah. And so, in that way, I'm contributing not just to myself, but to my surroundings, to this entire world and creation by me being in a better place. Yeah. So, coming back to your original question, is then that's where the Guru wants to take me.
Mm.
And sometimes we are in such a messy place in our life, so disconnected. There is no even question about that yet, of experiencing that yet. Yeah. So hence, then the discipline is important. Yeah. So you might be so far off from that yet because there's so much work to do because the mind is so scattered. But the only way to start getting there is to form some form of discipline in your life to begin with. Yeah. Is to train your mind patiently, slowly. The Guru uses the word sahaja, sahaja, sajdenal, right, to get to there. But not everyone can just get there straight away. So we need to build some discipline.
Mm.
And that discipline might mean, but then so now let's meet in the middle. Okay. But you're struggling to build that discipline for whatever reason. You're struggling to get a certain amount of prayers done. So what I will say is build something into your life.
Mm.
If you can't get 4 done, 5 done, 3 done, at least do 1.
Mm.
Yeah. Because even the 1 has the ability to, first of all, to help you build discipline into your life. And what does discipline even mean? Discipline means for you to be able to train your mind that it can't always have its way, and so that it's not always in control of you. And discipline is you slowly conquering your mind to say that I will choose, not just because now you feel something, I'm going to just give in to you. Yeah. That's part of what discipline is doing. Discipline is you slowly chipping away and conquering your mind.
Mm.
So, but each prayer has the ability to take you to that Nanak Bhagatan Sadavagas, to be in this forever state of gloom, right? So don't ever, but what happens is, if you've not done as much as you think you're supposed to be doing, and then you spend most of your time feeling bad about it, now you're carrying that frequency into the world, the feeling bad.
Mm.
And now you're showing up in the world with that. So you're now going to spread that.
Mm.
Instead, if it really means so much for you to be able to, for being able to say doing that much or how much ever, just spend a moment and think about practical ways of how you may reach that, but don't carry that into your life because it's not worth it.
Yeah, that's so powerful, right? Because it's coming from a place of also self-acceptance about where that person is. And you mentioned the mind being scattered, and it's mentioned a lot about karma, and this is like a reactivity of emotions. So what is it these shabads or these prayers are doing at that karmic level? What, I suppose the bigger question is what is the purpose here? Because nowadays we see a lot of the population in the popular culture getting very spiritual and wanting to, let's say, clear their karmas and having all sorts of different techniques and modalities. So what is it that kirtan and shabad and devotion does at that karmic level to the emotions and the mind?
If we just look at the word kirtan to begin with, kirtan is to take your mind into a state of praise. And the opposite of that is for your mind to be in a state of non-acceptance and complaint. So that in of itself is changing our brain if we're able to actually go into it. So kirtan is a state, is to be in a state of praise, to acknowledge the gifts of that divine. And then doing that in a form of chanting. And again, chanting can help us to fall into a flow state a lot quicker. Yeah. And music, chanting can have a very positive effect on our whole being. And it helps us. And then again, it's in poetic form. So what's happening is all of these things being in poetic form, then singing it, chanting it, it's helping for that wisdom to go deeper into us, into our memory. It's an easier way for our subconscious to take it all in. And then we want to, so that then that praise becomes a part of us. It oozes out of us in every way. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing because, like you said, a lot of people could be in that state of anger or reactivity, and coming to that state of praise. Not only does it make our thoughts different, but it makes the emotions different as well. And so I'm just wondering, and you mentioned at the start the wonderful poetry of Guru Nanak talking about the universe. Then what is the natural course of this consciousness then that we're trying to do here, or that's trying to do of its own? What is that role of consciousness that the Guru is trying to help within us, this longing sense.
From my reflection, when the Guru talks about the will of that one, I feel that there's a natural flow, and that natural flow is naturally evolving us to experience consciousness at its purest form. And there's certain ways and certain actions that will conflict, that will resist that natural flow. So then that slows down our natural flow of expanding our consciousness to know the truth of existence. So the Guru's wisdom is helping us to remain in that flow, but not only remain in it, but to actually speed things up. So if we were to just say, restrain from certain actions and become more aware of them, and to start letting go of them, which are actions just that come out of that ego state of trying to survive. And what comes out of those, things like jealousy, things like comparison, looking down at others, if we're able to start just letting go of them and we're not doing anything else spiritually, that itself will allow us to be in this natural flow of becoming more and more conscious and knowing the absolute. But then there's certain things that the Guru gives us to do. For example, like we just said, chanting certain mantras and doing certain, selfless acts. That is speeding up that process of becoming realized, knowing the true self, however you want to word it, all these nice fancy terms. The Guru uses all of them, by the way.
In many different languages. And you talked about this, the ego, and a lot of people, when we were talking about the ego and letting go, a lot of it seems to be sometimes very passive. And of course, we have that third chakra, but we still want to be a leader in our life. We still want to provide and be an active participant. So I feel like there's also a misconception of letting things go and being carefree, but then at the same time being an active participant in life. So what is the Guru's wisdom there in terms of, letting things go, but also being active?
So like I just mentioned, it's about understanding what the Guru is saying for us to let go of. The Guru is saying become conscious of letting go of these emotions or feelings that are coming about from this desperate need to survive, which then, so where again you can be in this natural flow and you do enough intuitively for this body to be nurtured, nourished, whatever it requires. There's a natural, like all of creation is made out of desire. We could word it in that way. Like, what is the energy behind creation is desire. Like the sound that first came from the creator, how many other times it's happened, because Guru Nanak Dev Ji says that it's happened, it comes and creation comes into being, and then it is taken back, and then there's just the formless again, and then it comes again, and then it's formless again. Bar, basari, bar. Guru Nanak Dev Ji says that it's been created many times, and then it goes back into the formless, and then there is just the formless, and then there's the form again. So every time that form appears, it comes out of that sound, but that's the very nature of that sound is desire. So this desire, then, if we get, and the biggest illusion of that sound current of that desire is that if I get a bit more of this, if I get a bit more of creation, of whatever, of matter, of, then I'm going to be okay. Then I'm going to be complete. Yeah. And out of that, so when the Guru's saying let go, the Guru's saying be careful that you're not falling into that illusion. Now, it's not just to look after and nurture this body now. Now you've fallen into this illusion to thinking, if I get more, only then I'm going to be complete. Yeah. And that's the nature of that, the sound current of creation, because it's just expanding. It will just continue. And if you fall into it, which is falling asleep into the Traya into the three modes of creation, if you fall asleep into it, your mind's just going to think, I need more of it. 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 Because that's the nature of it. Because it's just forever expanding. So then what will happen? It will become an ego. You will be consumed by the ego, which means then you want to now be above others, and you start to see yourself superior to others, which is then called hankar, which is then pride. It's that the Guru is saying become aware of and let go of. The Guru is not saying do nothing. The Guru is saying be aware of your mind falling into that trap. That's what we want to let go of.
Amazing. And this natural desire of, we have many desires, chocolate cake, houses, things like this, stability. But then the underlying desire, I think we talked about this before, longing. What is this sort of longing, desire, and almost where does that come from? And what can one do to start to acknowledge that or notice that?
I think if we just acknowledge if our mind is in that state and has fallen for that illusion, for that mirage, to if I grab and I grasp that, and that's it. If you're in that experience, you've got now a beautiful opportunity to transform that into longing. The famous line that so many people quote, Man tum jod swaroop hai, apna mool pehchan, which literally just translates to Man. Why would this need to be said? Say if your mind isn't in a troubled state and your mind is feeling anxious, or any other emotions where it's putting the mind at unease. This is now taking a moment, a breath, and saying, okay, wait, man. So pause. Hey, my mind. Man, tu jod swaroop hai. You do not exist merely by yourself. You have come out of something. So you don't have to now take that burden on that you are alone and everything. You've come out of something. There's something beyond you, and there's something where you originate from, that is the absolute stillness and bliss. So that's what you're telling the mind here. It's saying, Man, look, just relax. First of all, even at a mental level, tell yourself this. I'm getting caught up in this illusion. You're something much greater. You're actually the very light itself. That's where you've originated from. This identity that is getting concerned and worried, Man, tu Jot Swarup hai, apna mool pechan. Okay, I want to know my origin, because my origin is still. There is no anxiousness there. It's this identity that's got caught in it. That then can help us to create, form that longing. Is when you realize, I'm in this chase, there's no end, but there's something inside of me that knows there's more to this. Because where I've come from, my actual true existence is much more than this. And then it's consciously tapping into that longing to say, okay, I know I'm no longer in the illusion that if I get that next thing, whatever that might be, something material, a partner, a status, whatever that might be, okay, that's not it. That's not what's going to do it. But I can continue pursuing those things now without having the expectation that they are going to fulfill me and it's what I'm looking for. So now I've separated the two. I'm still going to have my goals to achieve those things without that expectation now. Because my longing is for something much deeper.
Wow. Yes, such a powerful thing. And
it's like turning it around.
Yeah.
So it's going this way and then realizing, oh, actually, no. So that way is giving in to the illusion of desire. And then it's taking a pause and saying, actually, it's that way where you've come from. And that is then the longing. So longing is just turning around.
Yeah. And my mind kind of goes to also the yogis in the Himalayas who are also trying the same thing, but at the same time, the life of a householder. So actually having that detachment, but also being able to do your service in the outside world. Yeah, which was quite beautiful conversation also to read between Guru Nanak and the yogis and how they had that conversation. So I'm just wondering, and talking to that, how can people start to then understand this fragrance or this energetic signature in them and start to then play big if they feel called to do that, but still having that humility and being humble. So in that, whatever they do, they may be called to do some bigger actions or maybe a leader or a bigger role, but at the same time, spreading their fragrance and their talents, but at the same time, being humble. Because a lot of the time people can fall into this self-sabotage or quote-unquote being too humble, but actually it's not the real humility, if you know what I mean. Hey everybody, sorry to interrupt your podcast, but if I could take the time to ask you if you could please subscribe to this channel. This would help me as I grow the channel to share the deep knowledge and wisdom of our guests, and I'd love to share that I'm offering one-to-one coaching if you want to dive deeper and know what lights you up in a safe and professional manner, to do things wholeheartedly for a career you like, and to do things such as meditation, dive into your personality with certain Eastern and Western tools. And I'd love to share with you some of the testimonials I've had from previous clients. So if that floats your boat and you'd like to go slow to go far, then you can have a free strategy session with me. You can visit my website, Jhoty.com. That link should be in the description. Enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Well, if it's not real humility, then it's still on the spectrum of the ego. Maybe just not as we generally see and understand it. So maybe it's just not on the obvious end of the spectrum of ego, where somebody is now seeming to be quite self-centered and big-headed. But even when it's then this not so real humility, do you want to give an example of what that might be? Like what that might look like?
I'm just thinking, like, sometimes it could be like when you go, let's say, to a place of worship, could be a gurdwara, and sometimes we could be caught in a place of trying to act overly appeasing or overly, like, let's say, inferior, but it's coming from a place of like appeasing rather than actually like meeting somebody as one, if you know what I mean. So that could be quite a common one, I guess.
So there's this. So what happens is this person, it's almost out of fear of being egoistic, and then you start saying, look, no, I'm just no one. I'm just the dust of your feet, and then you start saying things like that. But again, there's this feeling of like, I want to be the best. Nobody. I want to be the best. But there's still the spectrum of ego there, and it's still feeling almost. And even remember when, say, for example, you're feeling like a low energy, like, nah, I'm just a no one.
Yeah.
It's a low frequency.
Ah.
It's still a part of the ego, because real humility is when you've let go of both. And it's a much higher vibration.
Yeah.
So when somebody turns around, for example, say if somebody says to me, oh, your talks, your katha is amazing, and I'm like, no, I'm just no good, like I'm rubbish. Say if I'm actually feeling like I'm rubbish, yeah, but it's meant to also, my mind's telling me that will be humility. But if I'm actually feeling that I'm rubbish, that's a low frequency, which is still part of the survival and still part of, the holding on to the ego and fear. And so it's a lower vibration. But actual humility is, okay, it could look like this, as just to give an example, to make it a bit more real sometimes for people, because always talking about from internal, it could be difficult for people to understand. So as an example, it could be this. If somebody says, oh, wow, your talks are really helpful, that they're really good. And it could be, oh, wow, thank you, and that they are providing you with that wisdom to help in your life. Because true humility is when you feel like Guru uses the word Jan, and Jan means to be a servant, but a very powerful servant. And how can you be powerful but a servant? A powerful servant, because the Guru uses words like servant, so I don't want to dismiss them. So how can you be a powerful servant? And what is then true humility? True humility is feeling humbled that you've been able to go underneath and to provide a platform and hands to lift somebody back closer to their light. So there's strength in there, isn't there, to lift somebody up back to their light. And that's true humility, is that you've gone lower, but to lift.
Wow.
And humility is in that moment saying, no, I'm just rubbish. It's saying, I'm so thankful that those words have done that for you.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful for people to hear on both sides. And almost the nuance there. And I'm just wondering about this as well, like to make it practical, how the Guru Mantra. So, how is the Guru Mantra? I guess why is the Guru Mantra used and given? I know this could be a whole separate podcast, but just to make it a bit practical for people, really, what is it, and how can people use this in the correct way?
I don't think I can answer that question in the sense anywhere near in its complete form. And that's not fake humility, because the truth is that that's trying to answer a question of from a guru's perspective of giving a good mantra. All I can give you is like a tiny piece of reflection on my understanding of why the guru gives a good mantra. So it's say if I'm teaching my child to ride a bike, and if I say to the child, just get on with it, and it's like, what? Well, and then, or I can say to the child, look, you will be able to do this. You will be able to flow and ride, but just for the beginning, I'm just gonna like help you find that balance, and I'm gonna hold this up for you. Right? And you're kind of guiding and you're doing that. Good mantra can be seen in a similar way. There's no perfect example, by the way. Kabir, you made that clear in his sloks. There's no perfect example for Guru. For example, I want to find that connection, and I want to use a sound, vibration, a specific word to start that journey to find that connection, or start the journey towards connection. But I'm so lost, or call it meek, or like Dean, Guru uses the word. I want to, but I haven't got the strength of how to, I haven't got enough platform to even start. So the Guru takes a word and charges it for us. And charges it with so much energy, and then a Gur mantra is then what's the term I'm looking for? It's something you're initiated into, because it's almost it's instilled in you by a guru, something that's been charged by the guru. So a guru's charged that word by chanting it again and again, or however a guru would charge a word, a mantra, yeah, and the connection to it that connects you back to that divine, and then the guru transmits that into you. So it's like you're getting a boost of energy that you wouldn't have been able to create and form yourself. And the guru's instilling that into you. And that's why you get initiated into a mantra. That's why we don't call it a baptism. We don't call it, it's an initiation, because you've been initiated into the Guru mantra.
Mm.
And then you're getting this whole surge of energy put into you to start your journey. And then it's your responsibility then to keep that activated, the mantra, so that it can travel through the different parts of you, which first stage is Bakari, where you say out loud, and it's Maddam when you're able to just concentrate on it internally, but it's still very high up. And then it's Gant, then it goes deeper and deeper into you, to your throat area. And then at the pit of your throat, which is your throat chakra, and then it goes deeper into your Hirda, which is your heart chakra, then into just above then your navel, your nabi, and then it goes into your nabi. But the way your mantra works is then from your nabi, then it goes into your Rom. So this is the Girya of Jap. Rom into your pores, when then it starts to vibrate into each pore, which Guru Nanak referred to in Siddh Gosht as Gurmukh Rom Hartyava. Is with each pore of your body, you are meditating on that one's name now. But jap takes a lot of effort and time and discipline, concentration. There's, even though Sikhs talk about jap a lot, but not many are doing it with full surti and dhyan, so that it goes deeper into us. A lot of people are saying it passively, but a mantra is to be practiced with full concentration.
Mm.
And then when it's vibrating in your room, and then it will echo through the creation, and you realize that how everything is all interconnected and vibrating within yourself. You pause, it's the same externally as well. And then there's this connection of inside and outside, antar, bahar, har, prab, eko. Start to realize that everything is this that is outside as well. And so that's my reflection on a Gur mantra.
Yeah, that was very beautiful, because I think it helps people as well realize that they can start to embody that as they chant as well. And that's something I think we talked previously on the podcast. So I'm just also wondering, as we slowly begin to wrap up, about what was sort of the people, so people can understand. So the gurus came as that consciousness, as that light. But I think we spoke about this before. There were also different energetic signatures that also were able to give a fragrance. So if you could also perhaps give some reflections on this as well, and how people can begin to connect to each of these fragrance dimensions, and also maybe just also some reflections on then that 9-month period of Guru Gobind Singh. What was sort of going on between Guru Gobind Singh and the Sri Guru Granth Sahib as well?
First of all, just on the note of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, when they, from memory, from heart, they recited what today of who we take as the embodiment of all the 10 Gurus, the light of the Gurus, that we bow to. Guru Gobind Singh Ji recited all of that Bani by memory, without looking at it from anywhere else. They didn't have access. The process that we just spoke about of how a word, one word, which is a mantra, is charged by the Guru. In the same way, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, again, a reflection, other people might see differently, that's okay. As Guru Gobind Singh Ji was charging each word of the Guru's Bani, each Guru's Bani, it's like once and for all when they're putting it all together. It's not that he didn't have that vibration and current in there, but Guru Gobind Singh Ji's, it's almost like all in one go, and now charging each word for us, putting it into one space. So then in a sense, then the entire Bani of Guru Granth Sahib Ji then becomes this mantra for us. Yeah. And that's why the entire wisdom of Guru Granth Sahib Ji can also be referred to as the shabad. So all of it is, the entire wisdom is the shabad, which is all being completely ready for us to embrace and charged by Guru Gobind Singh Ji in that 9-month period, which is, roughly how long the child is in the mother's womb, and helps us to truly be born. Wow. So, but Guru also gives us a formula to be able to receive the Bani in its charged form. So the formula the Guru gives us is Gaviye, is to chant it. Don't just read it passively. And that chant might be out loud, or that chant might be internal, right? Create some form of rhythmic vibration for yourself. Yeah. And then the Guru says, Gaviye, then Suniye. So this is the formula to be able to receive that charged Bani. And then Suniye means be present to the vibration. So it can't be that your mind is off somewhere else, because then it's not going to be capturing that current, that sound current. So Gaviye, Suniye, and then Man Rakhiye Pao, which within your heart have devotion. So receive it, be present to it with a heart filled with devotion. It's like full, a circle from where we started. And that's how then you will experience what Guru Gobind Singh Ji's done to that Bani in those 9 months.
Amazing. Yeah, I think that's a super place to start to, I think, wrap up, because we started with compassion and obviously how dharma's from there, and then with Guru Gobind Singh and the Sri Guru Granth Sahib. Yeah, and I think we talked about kirtan as well, and how being in that sad sangat as well connects us to that heart. So Yeah, is there anything else you'd like to share at the end of this conversation to viewers who are maybe starting their journey or curious about connecting more?
I think it's very essential to be able to find Sangat. Sangat is a group of people. Guru defines it and says, Mil Sat Sangat, meet with those. And Sang means to be with. And then that Sat means those that are yearning for the truth. Be with them. Mil, go and meet with those. Mil Sat Sangat. Because Sat Sangat there, then Guru goes to define and says, Koj Dasai. Koj, those that are seeking for the truth. Be amongst them, Koj. Then Dasai. And in Punjabi, there's a saying where they'll say, Odi das payumen. So, for example, when somebody is looking for a resta for marriage, they will say, Oh, minu de vaste das payu, like, tell me about somebody that we can unite with this person. And in that seeking, there's an energy that is telling us of that one, that is telling us of the path to that one. Just the energy of the seeking is doing that for us. Yeah, and that's the power of being in that space. So if you want to start this journey, it's important to yearn to find that group, to be with that group that is yearning for the truth. Without that, it will be very difficult. And that's why we're very fortunate today that we can find that online too.
Yeah.
As we are providing a journey of compassion on our contemplation sessions.
Amazing. And where can people reach out and find you and connect on the contemplation sessions and have one-on-one if they need support?
Yes, so if you go to our website, journeyofcompassion.com, on there, you'll find on the homepage as well. It's one of under the events, you can sign up for free for the contemplation sessions. You'll get a newsletter every week with the link, and you can join us on Sundays at 6 p.m. UK time. And doesn't matter where I am in the world, we still continue with that session.
Yeah, and it's such a beautiful space as well. So I also leave the links in the description so people can connect. But yeah, thank you so much for your time today, for the wisdom and the opportunity to share that with everyone. And thank you everybody for also taking the time to listen.